Welcome again to the Impulse Info channel. The topic of today is the Chief Importance Officer, sometimes confused as CIO or CDO or CEO. So there's so many different C-level names that the question very often is asked, yeah, but where does the CDO or Chief Data Officer have to reside? Where did we put it in an organization? What kind of role is it and what kind of responsibilities should it take? Now, if we go back to the 19th century, there was an interesting role that was created. It was called CEO, also known as Chief Electrification Officer. And if you really look at it, there was a big project where people were going from gas lights to electricity in their houses and also in public domains. And what happens is that that project was quite important and took a lot of effort to put in place, so therefore there was a chief put in place to get everything organized. Now, if we take the parallel and we'll look at data and say, well, shouldn't we do the same thing for data or even digitalization? And if you look at data, you actually see that it is quite different than electrification. Because what you really want as an organization is that the data and data management and using data and working with data is really considered as being part of the DNA of the organization. So it's not just a matter of executing it and doing it and putting it in place once. It's about making sure that the data is being used properly, managed properly, onboarded properly in the organization end to end. So it's not just about running a project and making sure that it's done, it's about ingraining it and making sure that everybody can use it in the right way. Now, we could actually say, well, we've been using data, we've been automating applications for 20, 30 years, so why do we need to do something special? Why can't we just reuse what we essentially already have, being a Chief Information Officer? Now, one of the issues there is that very often the role of a Chief Information Officer in an organization is to provide computing services, digitalization services, and providing platforms to the business. This is not what we really need to do if we want to be able to work more effectively with data and insight. Because that is not just a matter of delivering a solution and making sure that the solution can be used. It's about making sure that the data gets its life cycle from A to Z and that we can use it everywhere, and whether we automate it or not, it doesn't really matter. So that means that what we need to do is to put somebody in place that can serve as an honest broker that doesn't really have any stakes in whether we go left or right or whether we consider a customer to be a definition A or definition B. So we really need somebody that can look at it and say, what is transversally the way that we should look at data and manage the data in an effective way? It doesn't matter whether it's for department 1 or 2, because at the end of the day it isn't. The point is, how can we guarantee business result and how can we make sure that our business is becoming data driven? So hence the point that I don't think that the Chief Data Officer and the Chief Information Officer can be one and the same. Because as I said, it's not about the technology. It is also not about one line of business. It is about creating a transversal connection throughout the organization in a way that we are consistent with the risk that we are willing to run as an organization, that is consistent with our ethical approach, because, for example, one of the key questions now today is what kind of transparent algorithms are we going to use? Are we going to abuse or look at the legal boundaries of what we could do with the data so that we can maximize our profit? Or are we saying, no, we want to do it more in an ethical way that is potentially consistent with the company value? Or there's other ways where we're saying, well, what we're going to try to do is innovate with data and get value out of data. So the point is that we can range from pure risk mitigation and compliance, which would then, for example, hint to putting the Chief Data Officer more under a legal or a compliance role. But equally important is to say, how can we innovate? How can we look for new opportunities to be more effective by using the data, which is then more from an innovation point of view. And very often today, this kind of two sides of the coin, being the risk avoidance compliance side or the innovation side, are not naturally found within one department in an organization. So the key message in our point of view is that there should be really a position of a Chief Data Officer that can make sure that there is continuing effort and continuing care of onboarding the data, maintaining the data, and using the data in the right way. And we think that that can only be done by a person that is not considered to be a line of business or a technology delivery site, but somebody that is on the board that can make sure that the budget and the focus and the continuation of this viewpoint is consistent with the business strategy. And that is essentially why it doesn't actually really matter where we put it, but what's really important is that we have this Chief Importance Officer role that is seen as an honest broker that can steer both technology and can influence how the business should be restructured and reorganized, so that the proper use of data and the acquiring of insight out of that information that we have becomes something that we can be using as part of our DNA, part of our fabric, so that it's not a project consideration, but it's consistently done day by day, hence the definition of Chief Data Officer being Data Importance Officer. I hope that gave some insight and clarification in the whole debate on where we should put the CDO. Looking forward to another session and other content on the Impulse Info channel. Have a nice day.